Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's dive right in, because today we're unpacking a concept from a recent analysis by Ian Slade that will honestly fundamentally shift how you approach your daily interactions. If you lead people, or even if you just aspire to, we're looking at a single, transformative tool that literally separates average managers from the truly exceptional leaders. We're talking about deep listening. You see, Slade's analysis doesn't just treat listening as some polite, nice-to-have habit. No, it frames it as a strategic superpower that instantly unlocks hidden potential in your team. We're going to break down exactly how the mechanics of this work and how deploying it can immediately elevate your whole leadership game.
So what can actually make you a better leader? It's a question we all wrestle with, right? Like constantly. For a lot of us, our default assumption is that leadership just equals talking. We kind of think being a leader means directing more, having all the brilliant answers ready to go, or driving the strategy by, well, dominating the conversation. After all, talking feels like leading. But the source material completely flips that baseline assumption on its head. It argues that your real secret weapon isn't about the output you project. It's entirely about the input you receive. Turns out, true leadership power actually comes from how well you absorb and process what's going on around you.
Section 1. The Deep Listening Secret.
Now let's get into what this secret actually looks like. And just to be clear, this isn't just some soft skill or a corporate buzzword to toss around at an HR retreat. According to the source, deep listening is a highly active, totally deliberate practice. It's the literal difference between someone who just occupies a position of authority and a leader who genuinely connects with and elevates their team. There is this massive, structural gap between passively hearing words and actually understanding the true meaning behind them. I mean, most of us default to just hearing words. The sound waves hit our ears, we register the vocabulary, we wait for our turn to speak, and then check, mental box ticked, the conversation happened. But the analysis explicitly points out that deep listening is the active pursuit of decoding the actual intent. It's looking past the surface. Like, let's say a team member comes to you and says, "Hey, we need more time on this project." They aren't necessarily just talking about the calendar. If you're truly understanding their meaning, you might realize what they're actually saying is, "We don't have the resources we need," or "The scope of this project is completely undefined and we are drowning." That active translation, from the spoken word to the underlying truth, that is where your true leverage as a leader lies.
Section 2. The Chain Reaction. When you make that shift from just registering vocabulary to actively pursuing meaning, something really incredible happens. Because listening fully isn't just a nice, empathetic idea that exists in a vacuum. The source data reveals it's a powerful catalyst that sets off an immediate, tangible ripple effect across your entire team. Think of it like a giant chain reaction of dominoes. Let's walk through a real-world scenario. Imagine you have a team member who's been, a bit quiet lately. You sit down with them, and instead of rushing them, you deploy deep listening. Step 1, people feel valued. Because you're actively seeking their true meaning, that employee suddenly realizes their perspective actually matters to you. They aren't just a cog in the machine. That immediate feeling of value triggers step 2. They speak up more. All that hesitation and self-censorship just drops away. They know they aren't talking into a void, which naturally leads straight to step 3, they share ideas. Now this once quiet employee is tossing out a creative solution to a massive bottleneck that you hadn't even considered. You've just unlocked your team's problem-solving potential simply by giving them the mental space to operate. And finally, the whole shebang culminates in step 4, trust grows fast. Trust isn't built through grand sweeping corporate gestures or annual retreats. It's built rapidly and sustainably through this exact step-by-step chain reaction, which begins the absolute second you decide to deeply listen. Section 3. The Meeting Room. Pause. Okay, so it's one thing to understand that chain reaction in theory, right? It's another thing entirely to actually trigger it when you're sitting at a conference table, the agenda is packed, and the pressure to perform is on. So how do we take this concept and actually put it into practice? Well, the source gives us a very specific actionable technique for this exact high-stakes environment. Pause and really listen. It's a short directive, but wow, the weight behind it is immense. The next time you're in a meeting, this needs to be your primary tool. Now, let's be real for a second. The word pause is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. In a fast-paced corporate environment, taking a 3-second pause can feel absolutely agonizing. For a Type A leader, 3 seconds of silence can honestly feel like 3 hours of a slow, creeping existential crisis. But you have to push through that discomfort. It requires intense, deliberate intention. It means physically stopping yourself from formulating your genius reply while the other person is still talking. It means hitting the brakes on that overwhelming rush to just power through to the next agenda item. You have to mentally pause, sit in that uncomfortable silence for just a beat, and then direct all your energy to really listen, to hunt for that true meaning we talked about earlier. This simple, albeit kind of terrifying pause is the master switch that activates that entire chain reaction of trust.
Section 4. The game changer results.
If you're going to actively change your leadership habits, sit through those agonizing pauses, and expend the mental energy required to deeply listen, you naturally want to know what the return on that investment is going to be, right? Well, the source material outlines 3 massive, tangible rewards that directly impact the core metrics of your leadership success. First up, you spot problems early. Why? Because going right back to our chain reaction, your team feels safe enough to speak up. They aren't sweeping issues under the rug out of fear. They're bringing you the sparks before they turn into a raging fire. And spotting a problem early doesn't just save a headache, it saves time, resources, and often a whole lot of money. Second, you build stronger teams. That rapidly growing trust we talked about, it acts as this unbreakable glue for your department. In practice, a stronger team means higher retention rates, way less petty conflict, and a group of people who are resilient enough to weather tough quarters together. And third, you win more respect. This is absolutely crucial, because respect is never something you can just demand from a fancy job title. It's something you earn, daily, by making your people feel genuinely valued through your undivided attention. When your team knows for sure that you hear them, they will literally follow you anywhere.
And that brings us to this undeniable conclusion from the source text, which just synthesizes everything perfectly. It's a game changer for leaders. This isn't just about some tiny, incremental 1% improvement in your weekly one-on-ones. No, this is a fundamental shift that alters the entire dynamic of how a team functions. By deliberately choosing that uncomfortable meeting room pause, you stop just hearing the noise and you start understanding the truth. You trigger that incredibly powerful chain reaction of value and trust, which leads directly to spotting problems early and building an unshakable team. When you commit to this practice, you don't just change a conversation, you completely change the game.
So I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to challenge your own daily habits. Look at your own interactions and be brutally honest with yourself about the very next conversation you have today. Are you just hearing your team or truly understanding them? Take a second to really let that question sink in, because the answer to that question is going to dictate exactly the kind of leader you become moving forward. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Take this concept, embrace the pause, put it into practice, and I will see you next time.